value for calcium. And again, 8 to 10 is a good round number. If you had a child who had a calcium level of 12, are you going to worry about it?
No.
No. Okay. What are some functions of your calcium? It's on PowerPoint slide number 6. As an intracellular messenger, what are some functions that it actually does?
It allows stuff to go across membranes.
Blood coagulation.
What slide was it?
Slide number 6.
It's actually
Oh, your guys is number 8. So sorry. Yeah, because I don't think I have the objectives on mine. What 2 hormones regulate your calcium? I guess that's PowerPoint slide number 10 for you guys. What 2 hormones? Parathyroid and active vitamin D. Yes. Hypocalcemia. So on slide number 13. Hypocalcemia will cause what? What's the first one listed?
Tetany.
Tetany. And what is tetany?
Muscle joints.
Yes. Tightening of your muscle. Charlie horses. Right? Yes. Slide number 16, I guess. What is 80%? Where is 80% of your phosphorus?
Your
phosphate. Found with your calcium in your bone. Yes. On slide number 17, your inorganic phosphate ions are part of what buffer system?
Phosphate.
Your phosphate buffer system. Yes. On slide number 18, how does PTH regulate your calcium and your phosphorus?
Stimulates kidney to fosters conserving calcium.
Slide number 19, what would cause hyperphosphatemia? Hyper is phosphatemia. Increased phosphorus in your blood. So what would be a cause? It's on slide number 19. So renal insufficiency, hypersecretion of growth hormone, okay, hyperphosphatemia, increased phosphorus in your blood. What is the significance, and this is slide number 20, I guess, of a magnesium sulfate given to patients for preterm preterm labor? What does that mean to you running magnesiums on your analyzer in chemistry? It's going to be increased, right? So what do you need to double check?
To make sure they didn't draw it above the IV site.
Right, so you're going to call it, you're going to make sure they're an OB patient, and you're going to call the result, and you're going to make sure it wasn't drawn above an IV site. Yes. Magnesium, slide number 21, I guess. What is your normal value for magnesium? You have decreases in magnesium. What is it going to cause?
Tetany.
Yes. What else caused tetany? Calcium. So you're going to be able to put those together, right? Okay. Increased, again, central nervous system sedative effect. That's why you want to make sure getting magnesium sulfite, somebody's in the room with you. Okay, slide number 24, your iron metabolism. Where is your iron absorbed?
Duodenum.
Yes, in your intestine, right? So in other words, so what is the regulation? How does your body regulate its iron? How you exactly? You eat it and then you don't pass it through your kidneys, right? So some of it in your GI tract, but sloughing off of your cells. Exactly. What is the importance of drawing an iron level at the same time each time?
30%.
Right. So if somebody from the outside called you and said, my doctor ordered an iron level, do I need to know anything about, do I need to fast? You would say no, but you would say it would be important to get it drawn same time last time you got it drawn, right? Okay. What is the significance of doing an iron level during a phlebotomy, a blood transfusion?
Never draw.
You don't want to do it because then you get right off from the other blood.
Exactly. So really, when you're getting a blood transfusion, you're testing the iron of the person who's giving you the blood, right? The donor versus the patient, right? It shouldn't be important to draw it before. Okay. So transferrin does what for your iron? Slide 26. What does transferrin do? Carries it, right? Bound to a protein. Okay, protein bound, which binds your iron. Okay. Would your iron level be high or low in iron deficiency anemia? Low. So normal value for iron was 50 to like 175, right? So if I gave you a value of 25, you would know that that would be decreased, and disease state would be iron deficiency anemia.
Was 50 to 175?
I do believe so. Which is, yep, the next question on page, PowerPoint, I guess 30 for you guys. Your serum iron normal value 50 to 175 micrograms per deciliter. So if we are measuring your serum iron in the laboratory, what's the first step of the process of measuring your iron?
Separate the iron off
Yes,
the protein.
right. So even if you have a reagent that's going to do that automatically, that's what it has to do. It has to get the iron off of that protein. Yes. How would you calculate a percent saturation? So if I give you a value, iron value of 75 and your TIVC is 22, you're going to be able to divide it and multiply by 100 and get your percent saturation, right? Okay, easy enough. Why would you suggest to a doctor, which you're not allowed to do anymore, but why would you, if you were allowed, why would you suggest to a doctor to run a plasma ferritin level versus just a serum iron?
More sensitive for iron deficiency.
Correct, it is more sensitive. Back in the day, they were allowed to call and say, I think my patient has this, what do you think I should order? And we're not allowed to do that anymore because that's baiting the doctor to order stuff that is more expensive perhaps. Or back in the day, we used to have standing orders. So if a patient was admitted, you just ran 20 tests whether they needed it or not, and they're not allowed to do that anymore. That was DRGs back in the day. The government said, you just, because it used to be a patient got admitted, they got a syphilis test, and they got a full-blown chemistry panel, and an CBC, and I mean, just urinalysis, and the whole 9 yards. You basically got a whole physical. And then DRG, some government regulation that said, nope, can't do that anymore. If they come in for a sore throat, they only get a rapid strep, or you come in because, with heart attack, you only get cardiac enzymes or that kind of stuff. So.
What did you say? It was more sensitive. Or
More sensitive indicator for iron deficiency anemia.
which one? The plasma.
Plasma ferritin level. Yep. And copper plays what role in hemoglobin? Why do you need copper? helps in the aid of synthesis of your copper, of your hemoglobin. Yep, you need copper for your hemoglobin. Yep, that's that one. A lot of normal values in this. They do. All right, let's do acid-base balance next. Have to knock out the cobwebs on this one. Seems like forever ago that we lectured on this one. So, in respiratory, they use the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So basically, what is that Henderson-Hasselbalch equation saying? What is that telling them? What is it doing? Yes. There will be a change in pH if there's any change to your bicarbonate or CO2. Right? Change in pH if there's a change in your bicarbonate or your CO2. The Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, pH equals the pK plus the log of the HCO3 divided by the H2CO3. You're just going to have to pick it out of the lineup. It's just going to basically be a multiple choice. You just got to pick it up out of a lineup. Okay. So your first buffer system is your bicarbonate carbonic acid. It is the most important buffer system. Why? How does it help you better than the other buffer systems?
It blow off.
Because you can blow off your CO2. Can you tell somebody to slow down their breathing? Can they do it? Yes, calm down, quit breathing so fast. Can you speed up somebody's breathing with a ventilator? Yes, you can speed them up. So you have, it's the most important because you can regulate, okay? And again, because CO2 is a volatile acid gas. If we can get that CO2 off, we can change their pH rapidly, correct? Okay. Where does your CO2 come from? I'm sorry?
The gas transfers in the
Due to metabolism, yes, yes. So your body takes glucose, breaks it down to CO2 and water. Again, how do you get rid of your CO2? Blow it off. How do you get rid of your extra water? Urinate, yes, yes. And what do you gain out of the whole process? Energy, right? Energy, yes. Okay. Your second buffer system is your hemoglobin buffer system. And why does that one work? What's the principle between your hemoglobin buffer system? The transfer of CO2 and your oxygen, yes. Transport your acid from the tissue to the lungs. Okay, very good. Your third one is your phosphate buffer, and your fourth one is your plasma protein buffer. So you're going to be able to tell me all four. Actually, if I give you about 8, you're going to be able to tell which ones of those are the actual ones, right? Okay. And you're going to be able to tell me which one's the most important. Okay. So for acid-base regulation, what is your normal pH range that your body wants to stay in?
7.4.
That's absolute normal.
7.35 to 7.4.
Exactly, exactly. What two body organ systems or whatever regulate your acid-base balance?
Kidneys and lungs.
Kidneys and lungs. Which one is the fastest?
The lungs.
Right. How long does the kidneys take?
2 to 3 hours.
Days.
2 to 3 days. Oh.
Some hours to days, yes. Yes. So again, your lungs respond, and again, immediate response, that's on PowerPoint number 10. And then 11 talks about your kidneys responding, but again, it's slower, 3 to 4 days. Okay. You have questions about respiratory acidosis and respiratory alkalosis. I gave you a worksheet. Do you have any questions on how to use that worksheet? So I'm going to give you the values. So I'm going to give you a CO2 value. I'm going to give you a little history on the patient. You're going to be able to look at that patient's history and look at your worksheet and say, okay, my pH is high. So are they in acidosis or alkalosis?
Look, alkalosis.
Yes. Okay, so that's narrowing it down to a 50-50, right? Because now I know it's not acidosis because I know the pH, right? And then again, based on the patient's condition. So you have, so if they're in hyperventilation,
That is respiratory alkalosis.
right? Okay, so again, if they're in kidney failure, Metabolic, right? okay, so you know how you're going to look at your worksheet and be able to look at your information in your worksheet as far as your pH being high and all that good stuff, right? Okay, so again, you can bring your worksheet. So that's your 4 acidosis and alkalosis. Let's see. I told you there was an extra credit page, 10 questions extra credit, that again, it's from Maggie's test. It's not anything that I wrote. But again, it's the same stuff that you got in your PowerPoints. It's just her questions. So again, you can either do it or you don't do it. But I will tell you, 4 or 5 of the questions are just your normal values for your arterial blood gas values. So that was in there too.
So that's 17.
That's it on that one. Body water. So when your instrument is running a patient's electrolytes, it's going to give you an anion gap value. What is the value of that result? What does that do for you as the chemistry tech that's running the result, running the test?
Tells you if your machine's working.
Exactly. Tells you whether or not your analyzer is working. Exactly. On your regulation of blood volume, I think I have it as PowerPoint slide number 9. Is it your number 9 too?
Yeah.
Okay. If your blood pressure drops or you have a decrease in blood volume, what's the first thing that's going to happen? Yes, the secretion of renin. Exactly. On slide number 10, in kind of a roundabout way, in chemistry, what method do we use to analyze or get a value for your osmolality, serum or urine?
Serum. Freezing point.
Freezing point depression. Yes, freezing point depression. Sodium is an intracellular, extracellular. on slide number 14. Sodium is intracellular or extracellular?
Extracellular.
Cation or anion?
Cation.
Cation, yes. What's the normal value?
135 to 145.
Yes. What's the main function of your sodium?
Maintenance water.
And osmotic pressure. Hmm? So normal value for your sodium, we said, was 135 to 145. What is critical low?
Greater,
Less than 120, okay? So if I gave you a value of 160,
That's high.
increased, yes. If I gave you a value of 118, critical low. And what do you do with critical values? Call and document, yes. Yes. Potassium, intracellular, extracellular,
Interesting.
cation or anion.
Cation.
Does hemolysis affect your potassium? Does hemolysis affect your sodium? Normal range for potassium, 3.5 to 5.0. I have a potassium value of 2.5. Critical, you would call it, yes. Okay. Again, neuromuscular excitability, contraction of the heart. There was a episode of Untold Stories of the ER or something like that, where a patient was in diabetic ketoacidosis, and her potassium was 10 point something, and so she was, of course, dead until they could bring the potassium down. But they actually brought her back to life. It was interesting. I didn't know this. They have a machine that does chest compression. I never knew that. I never knew that. But literally, they strapped the patient's arms up on this machine, and the machine literally did chest compressions.
It's almost impossible to draw a patient when they move the arms and they're going like this.
Oh, you've actually seen one working?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's the
They
first
use
time-
most of the time now.
I didn't know that. It makes sense because then you don't have somebody standing over it getting tired from doing that. But they made it look like it came up off of them and pounded. Does it?
Correct. Well, I've seen two of them.
But dang, I would think that would just be.
One is about up to here and it's got an arm that
Uh-huh.
sits here and it just constantly is pushing.
Uh-huh.
And then the other one's a little lower, but yeah, it doesn't come off the body. But
This one, and that's what I thought. I would thought if it just stayed close and then pushed in. But this one, like, and I'm thinking, dang, that would just be beating the heck out of you.
They use those now. And then it straps around the back.
I didn't see
And then
that
they
part.
strap their hands
They
up.
strap their hands up. So yeah, I saw that. That was kind of cool. I've never seen that before. Anyway, never seen that. Let's see. So I said normal range, neuromuscular excitability. Okay. So for potassium, slide number 18. What are some special concerns when you're drawing the blood?
Prolonged term.
Mm-hmm. Again, hemolysis is a big one, right? Can affect your potassium. Said that already. Okay. Chloride, intracellular or extracellular? Extracellular. Cation or anion?
And
Anion. Normal value is
92 miles.
108. Yes. Okay. Bicarbonate. What's the normal value?
22.
Oh, sorry. Anion or cation?
And
Intracellular, extracellular.
extracellular.
Normal range?
22 to 29.
Okay.
ECF is intracellular or
Extracellular. Okay, so measurement of total CO2. Why is it important to leave the cap on the specimen?
Because it belong. The CO2 what? I don't know.
Volatile?
Gas escape your tube. Keep specimen cap put in refrigerator.
Correct, correct. So again, if you had a specimen that came down for, let's say, iron, okay, and the tech didn't put the cap back on and just left it in the rack, and then a couple hours later the doctor calls down and wants to add on electrolytes, what are you going to do? Yes, you're going to tell the phlebotomist, sorry, you can't reuse that specimen, we have to go redraw it again. So what value is going to be decreased? CO2 level, yes. So CO2 in your electrolytes, yes. Okay. All right, let's put it all together. What's your normal value for glucose?
65 per 100. Milligrams per deciliter.
I'm sorry?
Milligrams per deciliter.
Right now I'm just worried about numbers. Then what's the next one I gave you on your CO2, on your Chem sheet?
BUN
BUN? What's normal?
6 to 20.
Creatinine? That one's
0.6.
next? Is that what's next?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was 1.6?
3.
0.6?
6.
Okay, what was next? 135, 145?
Yep.
Okay, next was potassium? Or chloride? Potassium?
Potassium.
Normal is?
3.5 to 5.0.
Then it's chloride, right? Normal? 90, 80?
2 to 102.
Then CO2?
Is 22 to 29.
Next?
Calcium 8 to 10.
Sorry. Right? Is that all of them?
Mm-hmm. Well, you
Okay.
got the lipid panel, but we did that one already.
Yeah. So this is about this test. Okay? So you need to know your normal values. All right? Again, normal for pH, 7.4. Okay? All right. So if I have a patient whose glucose is 600, sorry, I didn't mean to put a dot there. 600, sorry. Okay? And everything else is normal. Okay? Are you thinking about a metabolic or a respiratory?
Metabolic.
Metabolic. Okay? So if your pH was high, it would be a metabolic acidosis or alkalosis. pH is high. Alkalosis, yes. Low? Yes. Okay. So a patient's glucose is 95, we'll say. Their BUN is 60. Their creatinine is 2.4. Okay. Their pH is 7.4. What is this patient's problem? Renal disease, right? Let's see, maybe some other ones. So a patient's CO2 is 12. What is that going to kick you into?
Critical.
What is it telling you? It's low.
Low.
So how does your CO2 get low? blowing it off. Exactly right. Exactly right. Okay.
Is this where you tell them to slow down or to go back?
Or breathe into a paper bag. Yes. Yes. Okay. If their CO2 was 40, it's high, right? So they're not blowing off their CO2. Would you expect them? So it's 40, so their lungs aren't breathing it off, right? So respiratory, metabolic.
Metabolic. It's something dealing with
Respiratory, because they're not blowing it off. CO2 is lungs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want you to get to an idea. Again, if you know what's normal, things that are abnormal, do you know why? Or can you come up with an idea of why? Again, pH is going to help you, right? pH is going to be, when you see a pH, what's the first thing you're going to do?
If it's acid or
Acid or alkaline, then boom, it's a 50-50 question, right? Okay. Then if your CO2 is bad, you know it's, right? Okay. Make sense? Then again, your glucose would help you for a diabetic state. Again, I'm going to tell you really what the patient's problem is. Are they in cardiac arrest, or are they hyperventilating, or are they whatever? I'm going to tell you the disease problem. Okay. So you're going to look at your pH and your values. But again, look at all of them. So look at everything that's normal or abnormal. It helps you to write on their increase, decrease, to give you an idea of what the problem is. That's just kind of some things you need to know as far as if you can remember what's normal. And even, and I'm not going to give you like a 5.8. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to give you a 21. I'm going to give you something pretty big. So again, if you can remember, roundabout numbers. I always kind of think of my chloride as being about 100 as being normal. Glucose is easy. Calcium, again, 8 to 10. I always kind of think just roundabout numbers. Anyway, so you need to know your normal values, because that'll help you with your disease. And again, read your patient history. That'll tell you too. If you have your sheet, you'll be able to figure it out. It's not a lot of just simple memorization from your PowerPoints. It's kind of putting it all together more for this test than probably any other. Okay. So we have time. I would like to do sustainability. I can find it. Where is my sustainability? If you don't have the PowerPoint, it's not a big deal.
will it be on the 10th?
It's a worksheet that you're going to turn in. It's not a test question.
Oh.
Where's sustainability? Shoot. So a couple years ago, the college decided that we were going to go green. So the college decided that we needed to educate you on sustainability issues. So the college told the coordinators that they had to get a representative from their program and lecture on sustainability. I volunteered. And, there it is. Okay. So it was an all-day ordeal, about 6 hours, on sustainability. And then Dana, who's the head of the MA program, saw me in there, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to do this, so I get to do it for MAs and MLTs. Aren't I lucky?" Okay, so sustainability. You've probably know this to death, right? I mean, with recycle bins everywhere, and they've been telling you do everything and anything, again, because we want to keep the earth safe for everybody and to keep us going. We don't want to turn into a Wall-E, right? Where we don't want to be all living in little bubble chairs up in space because the earth is too contaminated to live down here anymore. Okay, so we need to keep the earth safe. So, I meant to practice this earlier. Let's see if this works. It probably won't. I don't think it did last time, did it? No. All right. Let's see. College changed from. Let's see. I actually want the YouTube video.
Probably can get videos up there. It probably come.
I think it's this one. That's a bird with plastic in its gut.
I've been walking in the same way as I
This isn't the one. You'll get the idea.
missing out the cracks in the pavement and tying my heel and strutting my feet. Is there anything I can do for you, dear? Is there anyone I could call? No, and thank you, please, madame. I ain't lost, just wondering. From my hometown, made memories of phrase. From my hometown, ooh, the people I've made. How the wonders of my world, how the wonders of my world, how the wonders of this world, how the wonders now. I like it in the city when the air is so thick and opaque. I love it to see everybody in short skirts, shorts and shades. I like it in the city when two worlds collide. You get the people and the government, everybody taking different sides. Shows that we ain't gonna stand shit. Shows that we are.
That wasn't really the one I wanted to show you, but you get the idea. So basically, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is between the the coast of California and the coast of Japan. Go here. And basically what's happening is the currents are gathering up all the trash from the coastlines, and it's all just keeps staying and circling in this one big patch, again twice the size of Texas. So it's a huge garbage patch just in the ocean. And actually a boat captain actually found the great garbage patch. Okay, and again, water bottles and fishermen's nets and plastic bags and all that stuff that aren't biodegradable. And so they've actually found animals. They showed the picture of the bird where they found them disintegrating on the coastline full with their gut full of plastic and things like that. And there are some pieces of plastic that do somewhat biodegrade, but when they biodegrade into like little pellets that float along the water surface. And so birds actually think those are like fish eggs. And so then they scoop them up and then they feed them to their children thinking they're feeding them, you know, fish eggs and nutrient, and the little guys are just dying because they're not getting any nutrient. So that's basically the theory behind the Great Garbage Patch. And again, being it's so big, of course, nobody wants to pay the money to have it cleaned up, and it would be a big ordeal. I don't know if you knew this. I actually had a student in one of my classes whose daughter's job was to help try to find an answer to this problem and to do recycling on certain bottles and things. And when you throw your bottle into the recycle bin, do you remove the cap? According to her daughter, who does this recycling stuff, if the cap is on the bottle, a lot of times they won't bother to take the time to take the cap off to recycle the bottle. And it just becomes trash. So you think you're doing a good job because you're dumping it in that recycling bin, but in all honesty, there's a lot of times they'll reject them simply because the cap is on the bottle. Yeah. So again, silly things like that. So you think you're doing good, but you're not. So again, recycling the best you can. So sustainability, the ability to endure, okay, remain diverse and productive. You've heard of the term going green, right, or staying productive. Again, being a good steward of the earth, again, another term that sometimes you'll hear, okay. So for true sustainability, there's three pillars of sustainability. The economy. And again, if you're a rich society, does it not make sense that you can afford the recycling and you can give everybody a recycling bin? But if you're living in a jungle of Brazil, do you have recycle bins? So again, a lot of the economy. Society, kind of along with the economy, but again, the society that you live in. And then the last one's environment. Economy and society are very political. There's a lot of political ties into those, as you can imagine, okay? So I'm going to choose not to talk about the two political ones. I am going to focus on the environment, okay? So that's what we'll talk about. It's basically, but do understand, again, with society and economy, it has more than what we're just going to talk about, which is the environment's probably the one you know the most about anyway. So you hear over and over and over again, reduce, reuse, recycle, right? Use it over again. Reduce the number of things that you purchase. And I'm a big one for this. I'll go to the store, I'll buy something, and a week later it's still sitting in the bag in the middle of my living room. How bad did I need it, right? Simplify your life, okay? Have you seen those shows about people who are like living in like itty bitty little houses and stuff now, or little like tents? I saw one where a lady's living in this little round house where her bathroom is actually outside. I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to do that. And then replace disposables, okay? So again, instead of buying a styrofoam paper plate to eat your lunch on, you'd be better off to use a glass plate that you would wash and reuse. But here's where the problem comes in with the field that you're in. Do you want to reuse that urine cup that somebody else just used? Okay. So in our field, we are going the opposite of that. We aren't going to disposables, okay? We are going to single use, right? Simply because of the field that we're in. So again, something that to consider. So again, what the college wanted us to do was have you guys consider what job you're going into. What can you do to encourage sustainability? Okay? And again, in our field, we're not going to reuse needles. We don't reuse tourniquets anymore. You don't even reuse the hubs that you draw blood with. We don't do tubes, okay? But what can we do? We can recycle basically our reagent containers, right, that are plastic. We can get rid of those. Unfortunately, the little plastic cuvettes or the plastic type pipette tips, those have to go in biohazard trash. We can't recycle those, okay? But again, so unfortunately, we didn't get to use the CA2 or the Cobas Mira, which is a shame because it's a good one to use in this lecture. With the Cobas Mira, the cuvettes are disposable. You use them once and you throw them away. What trash are we throwing away with the CA240?
The little with our specimen cups.
Okay, our little specimen cups, okay, which the Cobas Mira has as well, and what's going down the drain, correct? So we don't have a lot of waste, right? We don't have a lot of trash. Something as simple as a strep kit, okay, for rapid strep. There are some kits that will come with individual little cups and individual little trays, and one tray for every kit that you get, and one little cup with every kit that you get. Look at, like with the pregnancy kits where you get the little transfer pipette, each one comes with a little transfer pipette. So there are some kits that we had one, I kid you not, that came with a little tray to hold the little cup for the rapid strep. Every kit came, every cartridge came with this little tray, to where if you had 30 kits in a box, you ended up with 30 of these little plastic trays. Well, what did you need that for? Why couldn't you just get one in the box to reuse for all 30 tests? So again, things to consider. So if you're the person who's deciding on which kit to use, look at the amount of trash that you have after you've done a certain thing. You guys haven't done RFs yet, have you? Okay, so that's a little card, and you put a drop of sample. Okay, so you can do 10 patients on one card, versus some kits where it's a cartridge for each individual patient. So how much trash are you gonna, So again, something to think about. That's what the college wanted to get across to you, is that when you get out in the workforce and you have a choice, would you want to pick an instrument like the CA240 that rewashes the cuvettes, that rewashes its pipette, or one that uses individual cuvettes, to where at the end of the day you're dumping a big trash can full of cuvettes and you're dumping a big trash can of pipette tips, versus one that just washes it and reuses it. So again, something that you need to think about. Okay, because in our field, we aren't going with disposables. Back in the day when I was a student and young pup, we had 3 ladies in the lab that did nothing but our dishes. We reused a lot of glassware. We rewashed. That was their job. Okay, we no longer have those because we throw everything in the trash. Okay, so again, something in our field. To reuse or repurpose, a lot of times you'll hear something about repurposing. You'll see it. A lot of coffee shops nowadays, they are finding old furniture and putting it in their coffee shops instead of those cafe chairs or whatever. It's an old sofa. Like in the TV show Friends, right? When they would go to the coffee shop, they'd sit on that great big huge sofa. So again, maybe that was somebody's sofa in their house. If you've ever been to the spaghetti factory, they repurposed a lot of things, as far as they had headboards and footboards that are now chairs. So that's one of the big things that they do. To encourage to go to garage sales and buy things that have already been used versus going and buying new. Buy and sell used. To recycle things in your home. Do you have a recycle container? Do you recycle your glass containers? Do you recycle your paper, newspapers, or just how much stuff do we get junk mail in the mail? And I'm kind of iffy on that one because it gives a letter carrier a job. Ink cartridges. Do you buy new ink cartridges, or do you buy the ones that were refilled? I've done both. I think the newer ones give you a little better product, but anyway. Oil, back in the day, and they still do it now when you take it to like a Valvoline, but back in the day, like my dad used to change the oil on the cars, and I remember him walking over to the drain at the side, the side of the road, and just dumping it down the drain. And of course, now you have to recycle. And of course, your metal, right? You know there is no more mineable aluminum in this country. All the new aluminum is coming from foreign countries. We have no more mineable in this country. Because they're so far and few between, it's not economical to do it. So a lot of ours comes from recycled, or we get it from other countries now. So conserve energy, again, reducing your energy bill. I had a student last year that had a friend who was in the heating and air conditioning business, and she just happened to mention that he had said to, you know, on your furnace you can have it on auto to where it kicks on only when it's changing the temperature. He said to put it on, and so that it cycled the air all the time. And I thought, dang, you'd think that would raise your bill, because then you got the fan blowing all the time. But I did have hot spots and I did have cold spots. You know, I'd be in the living room, be nice and roasty, and then I'd go to bed and it was freezing in the bedroom. And I thought, well, let me try it, okay? So I did. I changed mine to where it was on, so it cycled the air all the time. I got a letter from the power company, said, you reduced your bill by 25%. What did you do? That was the only thing I could think that I did. I didn't kick my husband out or anything. It was just the two of us, you know, and I thought, that's the only thing I could think that I did different, because it was cold. It's like the weather hadn't changed. It's not like all of a sudden, you know, the weather was now 70 and it wasn't needing as much. It was still actually quite cold. So I went ahead and left it on, and then the next month I had reduced it by 23%. So I thought, well, maybe there is something to this. And but then when it got warm and I had the air conditioner on, I have hot spots in the house, but I don't go into those rooms. So I thought, I don't know that I want to recycle, you know, the air. So I didn't leave it on then. And now my energy bills are back to where they were before. But anyway, just something as simple as that. I had no idea that just by circling the air around and keeping hot and cold spots in check made a big difference.
Are you talking about like on the furnace thing, or on the
furnace?
actual furnace?
On the furnace,
Temperature
the
thing?
thingy in the hallway that
Yeah.
tells you what to do.
Keep it on.
Because now mine's fairly new. I don't know if older ones will do that.
Mine's too.
Yeah, but you can have it on auto, or you can have it on circulate, or you can just have it on.
Mhm.
So I just turned it on so that the fan would go all the time.
Okay.
And then I didn't have any cold spots in my house. And it did make a difference. But again, I had no idea it would reduce my electricity bill by that much. But 25%, that was pretty good.
I wonder if that hurts your unit. You know what I mean? Constantly.
I don't know. That would be a good question to ask. I don't know. If that would make your fan
Go
So
out
faster?
sooner, I would think.
I don't know.
So
Good
you
question.
never give it rest, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Because I know on the very first Cobos mural we had, we were leaving it on all the time, and the first thing that died was the fan. So that may be a good point. I'll have to ask next time they come to do a PM on my furnace.
Probably good you turned it off for summer.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, conserve water. Again, changing your personal habits. How many of you leave the water running while you're brushing your teeth? You turn it off in between? Okay. So there was an episode of Sesame Street way back in the day when my kids were little. There was a little fish, and he was in a little lake, and he was like right outside this, little boy's window, and he could see that he was letting the water run while he was brushing his teeth, and the water was going down and down and down. So the little fish picked up a phone and said, "Hey,